Research essays. Research essays are used to prove a point using sources from writers that have written about the topic before you. You use what they know to help prove what you learned. You use quotes and ideas from their work that support your ideas and prove what you are saying about your topic is true. It is very important not to just copy another person's work. That's plagiarism, and it's a kind of theft, and you don't want to be a thief, and also you don't want to get 0 on your paper. If I catch you plagiarizing, that's what will happen. Don't do it. It's not a good idea. There's a presentation on how to work quotes into your writing and how to properly give credit for or cite your sources called Works Cited Lists and Citations. So just go look at that if you want to know how to do that. Research essays are used to prove your original idea or thesis statement to the reader of your essay. When you do research, you are essentially trying to solve a mystery. You want to know how something works or why something happened. Your essay should try to answer a question that you have about your topic. A research essay presents an original thesis about a topic and develops that thesis with information gathered from a variety of sources. You are proving that your idea is strong and valid because other people have thought of it as well, or have found information that supports your original idea. Sometimes asking a question is a good way to get started on research. Why did the Great Depression happen? Was the bell jar really similar to Sylvia Plath's life? Are vampires real? It is, of course, important to organize your work when you're doing research. You need to keep track of your sources, where they came from, who wrote them, what year they were published, and all the information that you need in your works cited list. So be sure to check that video before you look at this one, or maybe right after you look at this one. You will most likely be given an outline to help plan your essay and use it, as it is very important to keep track of quotations and where they come from. You have to include this information both in the text of your essay showing where your quotes came from and at the end of your essay on a separate page of works cited showing all the details for each source. You should try to do at least 2 quotations per paragraph in a high school level essay. If you're writing for your 11 AP, you might want to do a more. More is always okay for any level. And don't just drop half a page of text into an essay or sentences taken from a source with bullet points. That's what notes are for. You can note information like that, but in your essay you must choose the best brief points to support your ideas and work them into your paragraphs. Try to integrate your quotes smoothly. Remember, these quotes are supporting your own ideas, not forming the core of your essay. See the video on Works Cited for how to do that. It's important. You can't just use half your word count in quotations, because then you're not really saying anything. You're just giving me a whole list of things other people have said, and that's not the point of you doing your research essay. Sources can be books, websites, films, videos from YouTube, online journals, encyclopedias, interviews, and so on. There's 2 types of sources, really, primary and secondary sources. Primary sources are works, articles, journals, letters, etc. from the time of the event you are writing about. For example, if you were writing an essay on the Great Depression, you could use the news articles John Steinbeck wrote at the time, speeches from Franklin D. Roosevelt, or letters written during that period. If you were writing about Sylvia Plath, you could use her journals as a primary source. Secondary sources are works written later on that analyze or investigate the event you are writing about. So an article on causes of the Great Depression written in 2012 would be a secondary source. A New York Times article on Sylvia Plath written this year would also be a secondary source. You might be asked to use both primary and secondary sources in your essay. I recommend looking for primary and secondary sources anyway, because it gives you more valid information. And then your ideas will come clear more easily because you're looking at original information and other people's information that came later. And that will help form your ideas and give your essay more of a basis and more of a broad foundation for you to build on. When you write a research essay, it's a good idea to come up with a thesis statement and ideas for your body paragraphs before you begin writing your essay so that you have a better focus on what information you actually need. It will be much easier for you to find information. You'll be limiting the information that you need. To learn how to make body paragraphs and thesis statements, check the videos on those. Okay, so for example, if your thesis is focusing on causes of the Great Depression, It can be quite simple. There were several causes of the Great Depression, but 3 events were the main reasons the economy failed. Of course, there were probably more than 3 reasons the economy failed in 1929 and caused the Great Depression of 10 years. But for our purposes, for an academic English essay in high school, we don't need to find out every single detail that ever happened to lead to this big economic downturn. We just want to look at 3 major events that we know a little bit about from the information we learned in class. So the stock market crash of 1929 is one reason. Hoover's bad economic policies in the 1920s were another reason. And the terrible drought in agricultural regions in the South-ish and across the Midwest were another reason. So now, if you've got 3 ideas for your main body paragraphs, you only need to find articles that relate to those 3 reasons. You can ignore everything else out there. Because really, each of these topics could have an entire book written about them, and they probably have. But for our academic high school purposes, we don't need to know everything. We just want to learn a general idea and prove that we have learned something more deep about the history of the period that we're studying. So that's what we're trying to do. So you can do Google searches for each of those 3 topics, and you'll be able to find a number of articles on each, and then you can choose the ones you like the most. 2 or 3 articles on each topic is more than enough. That will definitely provide you with information that you need for your essay purposes in grade 9, in grade 10, and in grade 11. So other than including quotes and reading other people's works about your topic, research essays work much the same as other kinds of essays. You need to have a good thesis, a good plan, and good resources, and keep track of where your resources come from in your works cited lists. You are still using your own words and ideas to make up most of your paper. Quotes are only used to prove and support your ideas. When a lawyer presents a court case, she uses evidence to prove that her argument is true, but she uses her own words for most of what she says in court. Your essay is going to work the same way. And really, that's about it for research essays. The planning and noting where your sources come from is the most important part. You've got to have that information so you can give it to your teacher at the end with all your very good ideas and show where your support comes from. That's the key. That's the key to writing a research essay. That and keeping it narrow. Make sure your topics are specific. Find a couple of articles on each topic and you're good to go. Any further questions and you can ask your teacher.